In the year I've been listening to IEMs and Apple lossless music, I've tried 7 DACs, digital audio converters, each with a built-in headphone amp to bump the power up for easy-to-drive over-ear headphones and hard-to-drive IEMs, one tiny thing that plugged directly into the USB-C port on my iPad Pro and did not stick out much at all. 2 wired dongles, 2 built-into digital audio players, see my reviews of the Shanling M0 and M1S linked below, 1 battery-equipped portable with higher power, see my review of the FiO Q11, also linked below, and now an inexpensive desktop DAC amp, the new Tempotec March III, which I'm happy to review here. The little plug-in DAC was not worth having over the Apple dongle. The first wired dongle DAC was better, but only had a 3.5 single-ended output and a kind of dry sound, and did not play well with my Apple hardware. The second dongle DAC convinced me of the superiority of a balanced output, but still did not play well with Apple. The DAC in the Shanling M0 took me to what I consider high-resolution sound. The DAC in the Shanling M1S was simply better, with a much more expansive sound stage and even more detail. The FiO Q11 sounded pretty good, but it was not an upgrade from the M1S, a slight downgrade in fact, and while the battery provided extra power, it could not be charging and playing music at the same time, so it was actually not much good on the desktop. And, once more, it did not play as well with my Apple hardware as I would have liked. They have since upgraded the firmware on the Q11, and I'm not sure what changes they made. I saw an announcement for the Tempotec March III desktop DAC amp in the Coming Soon section of Hi-Fi Go, and did a bit of research on the Tempotec website. It looked good, both 3.5 single-ended and 4.4 balanced jacks. 630 megawatts at 32 ohms out of balanced output, so plenty of power for all my IEMs and my harmonic dyne Athena over-ear headphones. Bluetooth, a high-end DAC chip from AKM, and 4 2-per-channel low-noise op-amps from Texas Instruments, which is where the 4 VRMS balanced output comes from. It also has RCA output for powered speakers, 2 digital outputs, coaxial and optical, for including the March III in an audio chain with other components. The specs, signal-to-noise, channel separation, etc., look excellent, and Tempotec was having a $40 off the $129 introductory price special for the first U.S. customers. $89? How could I not give it a try? So it came, relatively quickly considering. It is a well-made black box with some good weight to it and little rubber feet to keep it from sliding on your desk. Not overly large, a nice size to sit beside your laptop or tablet. It has a single dual power and volume switch, push to power on or off, turn for volume. It has 2 gold-plated headphone jacks, and there is the little black and white LCD display window with 3 buttons under it. 1 switches input from Bluetooth to USB, 1 turns high gain on or off, and 1 turns the bass boost on or off. The display shows connection information, the file type and bit rate, and, of course, the volume. Though I've never had it above 40, the volume control has 100 steps. There is a little swivel Bluetooth antenna that screws in a socket on the back, along with the rest of the outputs, and a USB port for data and 1 for power. There is no USB-C to USB-C cable included in the box, but Tempotec included one in my shipment. There is a USB-A to USB-C cable that can be used for either power or data. All in all, a very solid unit with a high-quality feel. Of the other DACs I have experience with, the one in the Shanling M1S is by far the best. It has excellent tonal balance, great detail, and a uniquely spacious sound stage, and that is pretty much independent of what it's driving. It has enough power to drive all but the most demanding IEMs and headphones, and sets a high standard for quality. To my mind, the March III did not have to do any better than the M1S, but I was certainly hoping it would be as good. I already knew it would be the sound stage and the level of detail that would be the hardest to match, as that was the only place where the file Q11 had fallen short. And I'm happy to say the March III does everything the M1S does, and perhaps a bit more. It certainly has more power, which, with the high gain switch on, can add to the punch of the bass and open out the sense of space. It might be a bit more weighty than the M1S, not really warmer, but somehow more robust. Or maybe it's just that the M1S is a bit leaner and drier. But they are, honestly, very similar in tone and balance. And the sense of space, the wide enveloping soundstage, and the clear directional cues, well, it certainly equals the M1S. Its advantage over the M1S is that with a powered USB-C dock, I can have it set up permanently next to my iPad Pro and not have to constantly repurpose my M1S when I want to stream Apple Music. And it works flawlessly with the iPad. Turn on the power and it takes the audio feed from the iPad instantly. Sometimes with the M1S it took a few tries to get the iPad to recognize it in DAC mode. And the volume control works the way I like it. That 100-step control is all on the March III, and I do not have to fiddle with the volume on the iPad at all. There are a few strange things about the March III. Probably the strangest is that the Bluetooth is one way. It can only receive a signal from your source, which means that you can either connect the DAC to your laptop or computer or phone or digital streaming device via Bluetooth or via USB. It is just that I cannot understand why anyone would want to connect by Bluetooth, considering the loss in quality in the current implementations. It would make much more sense if the March III could be connected by USB and then transmit the high-quality Bluetooth codecs that are built into it to Bluetooth earbuds also equipped with the latest and best technology. That I can understand. The current receive-only setup, not so much. Then too, in its current configuration, the gain button, at least under 50 clicks, does not do much. It makes about 4 clicks out of 100 difference in volume at the most, barely noticeable. Tempotec Service says that they will fix that in a firmware update. I can say that putting the gain switch on gives more authority to the bass notes, and maybe opens the top end a little on my Lecture S12s and on my Harmonodyne Athenas. The bass button, on the other hand, makes a noticeable, and not, to my ear, a very pleasant difference in the bass level. It actually comes across as an overall increase in volume. I like good solid deep bass, but I'm not enough of a bass head to ever want to push the bass switch. Final quibble: as long as the March III is connected to power, the little LCD window glows with a ghostly light. It's not visible in daylight, but when the lights go off for the night, the March III is still awake and glowing. When you actually turn the M3 on, the screen goes black with white lettering. Very nice. But, short of unplugging the power, there is no way to shut the display totally off. That's also something I hope they will fix in a firmware update. Let me emphasize again that the March III requires a 5-volt power input to the USB-C power port on the back to operate. It cannot be powered through the data port, and it does not pass power back to the data host. That means that if you're streaming from, say, an iPad Pro via USB-C connection, you will need a powered dock that does pass power back to the iPad in order to avoid draining your iPad battery. Ideally, your dock would also have a USB-C data out for the audio connection, but you could use a USB-A to C cable once your dock is connected to the USB-C port on your iPad. And of course, if you're still in the Lightning connector universe, you'll need a powered dock with a Lightning connector. I'll put a link to the USB-C hub that I use on my desktop in the description below. I cannot testify to how any but the headphone inputs work, as I simply have not used them and probably never will. So, final words. At $89, or even at the full $129 introductory price, the Tempotec March III is a solid device with what I consider excellent sonic performance, as good a DAC amp as I have yet heard. If the desktop solution appeals to you, or if you have external powered speakers, or if your headphones or IEMs require a high output to shine, then I think you would be very happy with the March III from Tempotec. I know that I am.